Week 9. Some of these games you would have figured, oh, I know the outcome. I'll just watch it for show, keep it in the background. Lo and behold, some divisions have been shaken up. Some questions have been raised. Other teams just have no idea what's going on. Nutmeg. I know we usually say, when you're on a bye week, it's a victory. But unfortunately, there were some bumps in the road this week, sir.
Yes, there were indeed. And I do want to get into that because I can go either way with how my Colts performed in this one. However, there was one team that saved my Colts from being the laughing stock of week 9. And this is coming off a game where everyone was riding high on the Packers after being the Steelers, singing the praises of Jordan Love, saying that the championship aspirations are back on. There's a lot of buzz about the age 27 thing. Bart Starr, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love turns 27 this year. It's going to be complete the quadrant of when the superstar Packers quarterbacks win a championship. But here they are licking their wounds and losing to the Carolina Panthers at home.
Yes, the Carolina Panthers, who have equaled their win total from last year when they went a lovely 5-12. The Carolina Panthers, who for some reason have just been the little engine that could and have chugged their way to NFL decency. Yeah, the Packers have now taken over the fraudulent penthouse, taking it over.
Taking it over, not just being
yeah.
admitted, but they've pushed the Ravens down.
For what the Packers were favored and for all the buzz after, they're right, like you said, this is the team. They're incredible. They've got this talent, the offense, the defense. I'm not taking anything away from Carolina, but they should have been able to beat Carolina. And no, I don't know what this Packers team is. They are the true definition of Jekyll and Hyde this year. Absolute. You don't know what you're going to get. The play calling was horrible. Overall, they're just a mess. They're a mess. That's like they're good when they want to be good, but when they're supposed to handle business, they just don't. And like I said, I give Carolina credit. They did what they needed to do. It wasn't pretty. This wasn't a shootout. They were able to do what they needed to do, and when the clock hit double zeros, Carolina wins.
Yes, and this was Bryce Young's first game back in a couple of weeks, and he didn't exactly play very well. He barely cleared 100 yards, had an interception, so it's not like he came in and was throwing elbows and lighting the scoreboard up. This is very much on the Packers' shoulders as far as, you couldn't get 13 points against a Panthers defense. That isn't very good.
The Carolina run game was solid, and Bryce made throws when he had to. Like you said, stats weren't there, but he performed when he needed to. And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. I don't know where this vaunted Packers defense went. It's great to put up gaudy sack numbers and things of that nature, but when you need to shut a team down to get a win, that's what you're supposed to do. And they just didn't do that. And I put a lot of this on Jordan Love. Like some of those rollouts and the throws, it was like, well, what's going on here, man? But this was the same Jordan Love that was last year. Oh, man, he's ready to break out. He's ready to do this and that. And then you sit there after the game and you question, well, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Matt LaFleur needs to be questioned a bit. Some of the play calling was a little suspect. At the end of the day, if you want to be in that upper echelon and be with the Detroits, and the Rams and like that, you've got to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And this was a game that should have been handled, no questions asked, because there's a little drama there in the NFC North. But the Packers missed an opportunity, and now they're sitting there scratching their heads and have a little bit of a bigger hole to dig themselves out of.
Do you put that unenviable label on the Packers as far as they play to their competition. So they come out and they're playing the Panthers, who are kind of they play strong, they fight, but they're still a below average team, and uh, they the Packers in theory should be so much better than them, but they play down to the competition.
They remind me of the kid you went to school with, who would, buy all the cool clothes, have all the cool toys and stuff, want to be cool, but people still didn't like him. Like he just didn't fit in. He just wasn't it for some reason. And the Packers to me are like that kid. It's like, oh, look, our head coach is cool. He's always getting his hair cut. Like they look good. Like they come out in their uniforms, like they look the part, but they aren't the part. That's what the Packers are to me. Like, ooh, look at us. We're cool. We're cool. And then when it's time for you to perform, you don't do it. Or even better, the analogy when like kids, parents buy their kids all the, baseball stuff when kids are playing baseball. So they're looking like major leaguers. They got the glasses. They got, the armbands, all this high priced gear. And the kid can't hit for nothing. That's the Packers. You look good, but you can't do it when it counts.
Yeah. And very much adding insult to injury on this one. It's not just that they put up this woeful performance against Carolina. It's also that Tucker Kraft now suffered what is feared to be a torn ACL and is out for the season. This is after Jaden Reed already out for the season. This is with Dontavian Wicks down lately. Christian Watson, I feel like, is the balloon waiting to burst week in and week out. So
Yeah.
Injuries are not favoring the Packers either.
No, it seems like for all the hype that this wide receiver core gets, they can't stay healthy. There's something going on. So now, yeah, Tucker Kraft, he's been the god sent to this receiving core. Now he's out. So now the question is, are you just going to lean on Josh Jacobs and hopefully he doesn't get hurt? Because right now you can't depend on Jordan Love. I'm sorry. To me, if you need a one game to win, he's not my guy. He is not my guy.
And I mean all things we could say against the defense. In theory, even if you still hold your opponent to 16 points, you should still win. Jordan Love is supposed to be good enough where even holding the opponent to 16 points, that should still be good enough for defensive performance.
Yeah, you can kind of give the defense a pass, I guess. To me, it's one of those things where they didn't get the stop where they needed it. Like they should have stopped them so that, at this point, Carolina's got a kick. You guys get the ball back and hopefully, Jordan figures it out and leads you down for a score. But yeah, I think there's fault all around, not as much on the defense as it is on the offense. I think they really have got to look at themselves and figure out what they're going to be, especially with these injuries. No one fears Green Bay now. Now they're like on the outside looking in. They're going to have to scrape up wins. They're going to have to lean on this defense. This defense is going to have to create turnovers, points, because this offense just can't do it consistently.
Yeah, 5-2-1 still looks pretty good, but it's not quite as shiny a 5-2-1 as it would look on paper.
No, it's like lipstick on a pig. Like literally, it's yeah, 5-2-1. Like that one is ugly. You didn't beat the Cowboys. Don't mind you, the Cowboys offensive juggernaut, but you shouldn't have allowed the Cowboys to put 40 points up either.
Yeah, that's true.
So it is what it is, but they've got to figure out this offense is going to change, I think, a lot with Kraft being hurt. And I think it's going to be a lot more run and a lot is going to be put on this defense. They're going to have to really pony up, especially in that division, because the wild card is going to be interesting in the NFC.
Now, as you noted before, some more NFC North drama. And speaking of defense, there wasn't a whole lot present in Cincinnati on this one with their matchup against the Bears.
Cincinnati just needs to close the doors and just close it out. Just end the season there. I give them credit for fighting back. Like the heart is there. I absolutely give them respect. But I can't. I blame Cincinnati for how this game ended, but you see it all over the league. Guys don't know how to tackle. They think if they throw a shoulder into somebody that they're delivering the big hit. And unfortunately, it's like a 6'4" tight end with some muscle on him. Your corners aren't exactly the biggest. So let's wrap the guy. Let's wrap. Let's guarantee a tackle. Nope. They bounced off of him like a ping pong ball, and they made freaking Caleb Williams look like Dan Marino throwing a 58-yard dart, and then you lose the game.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, part of the lack of tackling is a little because and maybe this is more of a philosophical discussion, but because of how the rules have changed with protecting the players, if you can't wrap someone up and you can just all you can do is throw your body, you're supposed to throw your body low to take out their legs. But with all the calls protecting players, and players typically usually don't want their knees to be gone after anyway. It creates this awkward situation where it's hard to properly tackle someone if you can't wrap them up.
Grab a jersey, grab a leg, grab an arm. Some other guy's going to come running in trying to make a highlight hit. I don't care. Grab somebody. Just doing this doesn't do anything. I don't care. Like if the guy doesn't see you, you're going to look all big and bad. It's like using the hit stick on Madden. Okay, that's great. That works in the virtual world. But if they had just grabbed the guy's jersey, slowed him down. But lo and behold, your onside kick, which I think only 3 have been completed this year, went for naught. And I'm sorry, I don't know what's up with Joe Flacco's arm, but that Hail Mary was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Like, it didn't even get to the 10-yard line.
The man almost throw for 5.
Then you know what? Put somebody else in just to throw it, because I'm thinking, okay, the way this game's going, he gets it in the end zone, there's a chance. He arcs this thing, and then it's like duck hunt. And the duck just falls. And I'm like, that's just sad. Not even a chance. So, but you know what? Cincinnati gets what it deserves. You spend no money on the defense. You pay 3 guys on your offense, basically everything. There you go. Hell of an effort. Chicago survives. I figured Chicago would have played better. They need to look at themselves. You let Cincinnati, literally come back. There's some problems there, but you escape with a win.
There was funny to me after the Colston Loveland touchdown, the fact that Chicago's going for 2. And I mean, I guess in theory, it's probably just ingrained in the players and the coaches to make it a touchdown lead. We're just going to go for 2. But at the same time, there's 17 seconds left on the clock. Even if you're not ingrained to just make it a touchdown lead, it's how little confidence do you have in your defense you can't hold them for 17 seconds?
If I'm either of those teams, I have no faith in my defense. If you're Chicago, you're sitting there going, man, look what we did. Look what we allowed. Grandpa Flacco to come back and put 42 on us when we should have handled business, and it should never have happened. T. Higgins had a hell of a game. He had that beautiful 44-yard touchdown catch. Yeah, I dumped on Flacco when they signed him, when they traded for him, but I will give the man his respect. He might be the best 15 to 30-yard passer in the league. Don't ask him to throw you a Hail Mary because it ain't going to work. But at the end of the day, Chicago wins. It doesn't instill any confidence in me because of how they won. But Cincinnati's just – at this point, Cincinnati's just playing the season out. I said this last week. I don't think they're making the playoffs. I think they're just going to somehow stumble through the season.
It's funny, Joe Flacco proving us wrong, but at the same time, I'll still dump on him because I don't remember seeing anything out of him when he was wearing Colts blue to make me think that he could put up almost 500 yards in a game.
You just need the perfect storm. You just need the perfect opponent, the perfect storm, and that's how you get those numbers, man. That's how it works.
Yeah.
The sun shines on a dog's booty sometime, man.
Interesting note on the Bears. It didn't dawn on me, but I'm watching Game Day today, and I noticed that all their record and all their numbers are virtually the same from last year to this year. Last year being as horrible as it went, but they were 4-3 through 7 games. They had same amount of points scored. The one difference is they're giving up 10 plus more points per game this season. So, we rip on Caleb, we rip on the offense, but the offense has been pretty steady against the incompetence that was last year. It's just really the defense flying under the radar as far as being so bad. And it's funny that it's noticed going into this game because it was very much on display.
Yeah, I think what it was is once, they get the head coach situation handled, it was okay. If we fix the offense, everything's going to be great. Like the defense, I think their thought process was if we have a middle of the road defense, as long as we can become an offensive juggernaut, we're going to be okay. And so far, yeah, you look at Caleb Williams, I honestly don't think there's been that much improvement. I think he still kind of wants to, try to, scramble and make incredible plays like he did in college. And he's got to learn that doesn't work in the NFL. Sometimes you got to throw a ball away. Today he had that, like I said, he had the touchdown to win the game. I'll give him credit on that, but it's inconsistency. The run game has been solid for him in Chicago, so I give them credit on that. It's just right now they're going to get to the point where defensively, it's not like they're going to pick up any real big talent in the draft unless they hit on somebody, because they're going to be that middle of the road team. They may not make the playoffs, but they're going to fall in that draft category where you're like, someone may fall to us, someone may not. So they're going to have to really look at this defense to see what they want to become.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that now that this is kind of Colston Loveland's coming out party with that touchdown bouncing off defenders, maybe he'll actually get targeted more, because there was talk in the draft that he was the guy to take over Tyler Warren, and until this game, Tyler Warren's been making Loveland look silly. But this is kind of the note to make the Bears offense realize that, okay, this Loveland kid really can play. He was worth the draft pick.
Well, I know Kmet had gotten hurt during the game. I don't know if he was in at that time during that last drive. So if it's a situation where Kmet's dinged up, I think they'll go to the rookie a bit more. I think he's got talent. They have talent on the offensive side of the ball. They've got playmakers. It's just the quarterback isn't consistent. That's the issue. So if Caleb can figure it out, they can be a great offensive team. But it's just the inconsistencies there. And, yeah, when your defense gives up 40-plus points to Joe Flacco, there's an issue there. So there's some things they're going to, you go home this week, yeah, you won. But, get back to work tomorrow and figure out what happened, because if you guys want any chance of the playoffs, you can't let Detroit do that to you, or even Minnesota.
No. We'll get into that, because I'm sure you've got a bone to pick on that one. Now, it's not very often that two games show up, Chiefs-Bills, but here we are, almost 20 minutes into the show, and we haven't talked about Chiefs-Bills yet. So, where should we start on this one?
I am going to give credit where credit is due. Buffalo's defense showed up. I don't know what happened, but Mr. Bosa, hell of a game. Doesn't resign with, the Chargers, comes to Buffalo, basically almost like his coming out party. And they had this guy in the secondary. I don't know his first name. Last name Bishop. Hell of a kid. I guess he was their second-round pick last year. That kid had a hell of a game. Without him, I think Buffalo loses this game. I honestly believe that. Their defense was up to the challenge, and you got to give them credit. But, you almost take it with a grain of salt, because, in the regular season, Buffalo has handled KC. Yeah. It just, when the playoffs come, then it's different. But as of right now, if you look at the playoff picture, the Chiefs are in 8th place.
Yeah.
Because the Jags won. So you should thank the Jags a little bit there, buddy. As some of us in America are, at least for this week. But at the end of the day, Mahomes was running for his life. And for all this speed and all this, offensive weaponry that's back, because everyone this week was pumping their chest saying, the Chiefs are back, get ready for it. Now, mind you, Buffalo was a home dog. And they played and they never felt out of it. Like there were a couple series where you're like, all right, is KC gonna do it? And they just couldn't do it. The run game was suspect. Pachenko's out, but they held Hunt pretty tight. He did have a touchdown, but it wasn't like he was breaking off real runs. So they're dinged up on the offensive line. So everyone needs to kind of pump the brakes that the Chiefs are back 100% because there's some issues there.
Yeah, I mean, what's your take been on their passing game of late since Rice has come back from his legal woes? Is that kind of patching the holes or no?
Oh, well, that's what it was. The Chiefs were going to be this offensive thing. We're going to throw the ball all over the yard, and their defense, good defense, they were going to be able to handle things. But I think that time has come and gone for the Chiefs. I think teams have kind of figured it out. Buffalo's defense is decimated. They had starters left and right not starting, but they were able to figure it out. They were able to get pressure. That offensive line for Kansas City is an issue again. And that was the problem last year. And it was punctuated in the Super Bowl when the Eagles basically beat the hell out of Mahomes. Mahomes was running for his life again tonight. So if you've got a good pass rush and solid secondary, you're going to be okay. You're going to be in the game because Kelsey had a couple flashes, but it wasn't like, the Kelsey of a couple of years ago where, he was going to him and he automatic. Exactly. Now there were a couple plays, where the Buffalo defense, allowed a 4th and 18, where Kelsey leaked out and, had like a 20, 30-yard catch. Besides that, Buffalo was able to clamp. So the question is come playoff time, can Buffalo do the same thing?
Yeah. Well, like you said, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if Kansas City finds a way to get in and they wind up playing each other, this game really doesn't feel as impressive as it was. It doesn't feel like it means much because Buffalo hasn't done it when it matters. But at the same time, like you said, it may not matter at all because Kansas City may not even get in. They're currently on the outside of the picture.
Yeah, and we bite on that because we're just tired of it. We don't want to see it anymore.
Yeah.
But so it's week 9. There's still another 9 weeks or so of football, so anything can change. But, and this is just me personally, the shine and the aura of Kansas City just doesn't feel the same. They feel beatable. If teams can play smart and not make mistakes, Kansas City is beatable. If this was 2 years ago, they somehow figure out a way to win this game. And I think everyone would agree with me on that. But now no. And like I said, and Patrick, I figured the way this game was going, I'm like, all right, Patrick's going to start, doing that, bust out first down run like he normally does. Didn't see that at all. The way that the Buffalo defensive line played him was they bracketed him in so he couldn't bust out. So he had to sit in the pocket. And that's the key.
I was hoping he would because I had it in a couple parlays, but alas.
Well, you know what? Oh, well, buddy. You know what? Sometimes you got to lose a little money to get some happiness in your life without money. So that's fine with me. Oh, well. I'm not going to lie. He's starting on one of my fantasy teams, but you know what? I'll take a loss. Just put up the odds. Yeah. Just put up the numbers, but get the loss. That's all I want.
Yeah.
It's like Drake London. It's like Drake London today. That man had 3 touchdowns. That man was putting up numbers, but he lost. I'm good with life.
Yeah. Now we've talked in the past as far as the things that keep the Chiefs afloat is their defense, but James Cook ran up and down the field. Josh was able to pick them apart and have success with what was in front of him. So anything you're noticing as far as the defense maybe falling apart or showing some chinks in the armor?
Well, here's the thing, there were a couple times where I saw like Chris Jones on the sidelines and such. I don't know if they're just playing him more situationally now, but it was just like the defense is still solid, but they just couldn't get stops. I don't know if it was just Buffalo's offense. They were just able to hit when they could. Yeah, and James Cook is a quality running back. There's no doubt about it. So if he's busting 100, 100 yards. I think this was like the first game in like 10 or 11 games where, where the Chiefs gave up a 100-yard receiver and a 100-yard rusher. Like usually it's Clamp City and it's like one guy who puts up the stats. So, Buffalo's offense was well-rounded for the most part. I don't know. It just seems like there's something not there and teams are figuring it out. But also when your offense is, on the bench and you're coming out a lot more, it tires you up. I think the Chiefs were so used to, they're, running a great offense and being up by 2 or 3 scores that the defense can just pin their ears back and just go crazy. When you're close like this, you can't. You have to be situational. You can't say, okay, well, we're just going to blitz all the time or we're going to do this because we know Patrick's going to get us a touchdown. That offense isn't as explosive for whatever reason. So now the defense is kind of put in a box in a way where they're like, okay, we got to slow this other team down. We can't go crazy and use our whole playbook because if they score, our offense isn't doing what it needs to do. Yeah.
And as Bills Chiefs has had an effect on the AFC playoff picture, let's run down what has had other effects on the AFC playoff picture. And first, we'll start at the top. My Colts, we take one on the chin. And this one, from a pessimistic point of view, it hurts because it's a reminder of the House of Horrors argument. Pittsburgh, going to Pittsburgh, playing the Steelers in general, but specifically going to Pittsburgh has not been kind to us in the post-Peyton Manning years. And Daniel Jones put up a huge number, but Jonathan Taylor was shut down, and there were a lot of turnovers in this game. So I could look at this very pessimistically as far as the loss and, not being able to put away a team that's honestly not as good as us in theory. But I also could look at this as far as, hey, if Jonathan Taylor can get shut down and Daniel Jones can still throw for almost 350 yards, we should have won this. This was just about the turnovers. You can't turn the ball over this much.
That's what it came down to. It came down to the turnovers. Now, you give Pittsburgh credit that, and during the broadcast they said, they simplified their defense, and that's what they went into with this game. They went with a simplified version of their defense so they could just make plays. And the offensive line leaked a lot. There was a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones. And when I don't care who you've got behind center, when you're getting harassed a lot, you're going to end up trying to do too much. Your timing is sped up. You're going to make throws. You're not going to be able to wait for your receiver to make that break or anything like that. Like your timing is off. So you got to give Pittsburgh credit. Their defense played solid. TJ Watt really, really showed out today. I give him credit. Sometimes you just got to take a whipping, and it happens. And then I think what'll happen is they'll be able to look at this, shore up some things and move on. They're comfortable. Yeah, they're 7-2. Okay, that's horrible. You've got to sit back and say, okay, we lost, but we're 7-2. We're okay in the division. Pittsburgh is still kind of playing for their lives because, basically everyone has told them it doesn't matter what you do. Baltimore's taking this division. So they're playing with a chip on their shoulder because all of America, every analyst has said, oh yeah, Baltimore, they're coming back. They've got like they've got a 59% chance to come back and win the division, and they're second to last place. So when you hear that, you're coming out and you're juiced. You're ready to go because no one believes in you. No one except the people in your stadium and in your building believes in you because all of America is saying, nah, bro. Yeah, you lead this week. By week 16, it's a wrap. So,
yeah.
They're playing, they've got something to play for. It could have been a situation where, and sometimes when you're on a hot streak like that, 7-1, you're feeling pretty invincible, and sometimes you gotta take the lick and say, okay, well, we got to clean up some things. Maybe we're reading the press a little too much. We're thinking we're a little better than we are. We've got to keep that grind going, because you don't want to, go on a 3 or 4 game, losing streak or whatever. Next thing you know, you're like 8-6, and you're like, damn, what happened to our lead?
Right. Now, the other positive I could pull out of this is the fact that our secondaries had some injury concern. Quarterback is a major situation right now. And they even made a big deal of it on game day this Sunday morning, as far as how much passing yards we give up, which is at the bottom of the league, 250 yards per game. And so like, oh boy, here we go. Rodgers will throw it back. Rodgers barely had over 200 yards. He only threw 1 touchdown. So given, if I was gonna take one more positive out of a loss on this one, it's the fact that despite all the injuries, we still kind of put up a decent performance in the pass defense.
No, you totally did. The Steeler offense is quick, short passes. You look at the body of work of the Steelers this year. It's not like Aaron Rodgers is sitting in the pocket and is like his Green Bay days and just throwing 60-yard bombs. That's not him anymore. It's short, quick kind of stuff to the running back. That's their offense. And it's worked very well for them. So it's just a situation where the turnovers really hurt you guys. If you had only 1 turnover, this game is probably totally different. You guys get the onside kickback, and unfortunately, 3 or 4 plays in, because of the pass rush, Jones throws the pick to seal the deal. So it's just shoring some things up. You just had a bad game. That's what it comes down to. But no, the Steelers offense is not some juggernaut where, they're, piling up, 400 yards, and Aaron's, win MVP. No, he's sitting in there, getting rid of it quick, because he knows he's old and he can't do what he used to do. But he's good enough to get the ball out quick, to read a defense, and that's what it is.
Onside kick, my 2 least favorite words in the football dictionary.
But at least you recovered it.
That's right. Too bad it wasn't, 10 years ago. Anyway,
Indiana Jones just took a licking. He'll be back next week. You guys will be good.
One thing that also gives me a little bit of agita to years past is the fact that, yes, the Colts are having a very good season, but so are the New England Patriots.
Drake May is him.
Drake May, honestly enough, I give this team as a whole credit for this one, because Drake May had a bit of a turnover problem in this one, and they still were able to survive, especially considering the fact, like, as you mentioned before, Drake London went off.
It just you know what it is? It's the ineptitude of Atlanta yet again. It's just Atlanta's just not good. I don't get it. It's all this talent, and they can't figure it out. I don't know. Drake London had a hell of a game. He's like a bootleg Mike Evans. He's a Timu Mike Evans to me.
Yeah.
So, sorry. He's got talent. No disrespect, but just,
Well, yeah, I mean, you could be onto something here as far as the trajectory of their careers, because Mike Evans was playing with not a lot of great quarterbacks early on either. So, I mean, we could be seeing Drake London putting up numbers in spite of the terrible options he has throwing him the ball, and maybe Drake London's, upper tier success will come in the back end of his career, like Mike Evans has, where he just piles on.
I think Drake London would leave. I don't think Drake London is a guy who's going to give his whole career to one team. He'll leave. Someone will offer him a ton of money, he'll bounce. You got to give New England credit. Like you said, Drake May had, I think he had a strip sack, but at the end of the day, he made the throws he needed to make, and this team won. That's the difference between them and Atlanta. Atlanta just can't figure it out. Atlanta, they'll score some points, but when the throw needs to be made, Penix can't make it. It is what it is, man. New England is tough. No one believed in them in the beginning of the season. They're another team that's kind of got a chip on the shoulder, and they believe in themselves. They brought in the right coach, And this team right now believes that they can win the division. And even if they don't, they very well could be a wild card team, and they could be that team that you don't want to see in the first round.
Oh, I can't wait until the next team foolishly hires Josh McDaniels this offseason. I cannot wait.
It's going to be Atlanta because Raheem Morris is going to get bounced. But yes, I would like to thank the AFC East yet again. Appreciate you guys. Much love. You and the NFC West are my guys this week. Appreciate you. Much love. Much love.
And to complete this, the third of this three-way tie atop the AFC now. And again, this is another silver lining of the Colts' loss is the fact that Denver beat Houston. Keep them down in the doldrums where they currently are, and hopefully they'll stay there. But this one, it wasn't so much Bo Nix versus CJ Stroud. This was just a battle of kickers. Defense and kickers.
This game was rough, and once CJ Stroud was taken out of the game, like the hit was rough. Like hopefully he's back, but I think he's in concussion protocol, so he may not be back next week. That hit was a hard hit, so of course they're going to be very careful with him. But yeah, it just came down to whoever was going to have the ball at the end and able to make a kick, and that's what this game was. I give the Texans credit. They came to play, and for basically 3.5 quarters, they were in it. But these are the games that show teams toughness, and Denver was able to persevere. Like, don't forget, they had the Giants, was it last week, down by 19, somehow figure this out. Like they've been in some games where they've been down and have had to battle back. And that helps build up the confidence. Especially, when you're playing a tougher opponent and you're like, okay, we're only down, maybe 7-8 points. We can come back and win this. You don't want to go into a game like that, but, the Texans aren't void of talent. It's just injuries and just something just seems amiss, there this year. So give Denver credit. They were able to pull this out. It helps, especially in the division. The Texans are, depending on what happens with CJ, are probably just trying to find their way to just decency this year, and they're going to have to really look at things in the offseason.
What's your post-mortem report on this three-way tie atop the AFC? Which 7-2 team looks the best?
Wow.
I know you're going to break my heart right now. I already know it.
No. Would you stop? Would you stop? You would just assume the worst. So we've got New England, Indy, and Buffalo, right?
Denver.
Is that it? Oh, Denver. That's right, Denver. Yep. If I look at all three of them, not counting, including today's games, I have to include those. The team that's been the most consistent have been the Colts, especially offensively. So I give the nod to the Colts, but they've got to make sure that they get this offensive line tuned up a little bit, because if teams start applying that pressure to Jones, it's going to be tough. I think Taylor just had a rough time running the ball. I think the Steelers just had a really good game plan. I think other teams are going to kind of look at that. So, the Colts will have to change some things up, but I still think they're the number one team in the AFC this week. You thought horrible. You thought horrible things. See, when it comes to Denver, it's great to get comeback wins, but you can't do that all the time. You can't start to live your life like that, because there's going to be a point where you can't come back. It's nice to have some of those peppered in your resume for the year so that if things get tough, you've got it in you, but you don't want to go week to week like that. And New England is young and they're figuring things out. They're like that young kid with the new toy, and they're feeling great and they're doing their thing, but they don't. It's like they have a remote control car. They don't know the controls yet. They're figuring it out. So they're going to be good. They may hit a bump in the road, in Tampa, but, it's going to be okay, and they'll figure things out, but they still have to deal with Buffalo. So right now, I think Indy is still the class of the AFC.
I pray it stays that way because I think I might hide under the bed for all of January if we have to play a playoff game in Foxborough. It may take me back to 20 years ago.
They're gonna start. They're gonna have Tom call that game. That's what's gonna happen. They're gonna bring back all the juju, whatever they can.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Speaking of juju, I know you've probably got some foul words for the Detroit Lions because they keep dropping games that against teams that really probably are inferior to them. I mean, we give the Chiefs credit, but the Chiefs embarrassed the Lions, kind of surprisingly so, and then they lose this one to the Vikings. So it does it kind of like burn the salt a little bit of Tampa dropping that one to Detroit.
JJ McCarthy. I don't get it. I just don't understand it. It's the NFL, man. They're just games you win, they're games you don't. It is what it is. Tampa, we just do things the hard way. But Detroit, you'd figure, okay, JJ McCarthy's coming back. They've got some injuries on their own, but they've got enough talent, especially offensively, where they should have been able to pull this out. Nope. JJ McCarthy comes in and he's just having a grand old time. They don't care. They're playing like it's nothing's wrong in the world. So Detroit got a key to the fraudulent. They're kind of hanging out in the parking lot right now because they should have beat Minnesota. Like Minnesota has talent, but for all the hype that Detroit gets, I'm thinking, okay, maybe Minnesota keeps it close at the beginning, but, Detroit will handle business. Nope. They looked as mortal as can be. I give Minnesota credit, but Detroit, y'all got there's some issues there that you got to figure out. Again, maybe they played a little down to the talent. Maybe they were like, oh, we'll be good. We'll be all right. And Minnesota came in and said, not yet. I don't know.
I like the imagery of the Lions shotgunning beers outside the fraudulent penthouse. And in the event they have too many and can't drive home, you're sitting there waiting to open the door for them.
Yep. You got to open that door and let them right on in. It's just because Jordan Love's got the cooler ready to go. Look at that. Look, the penthouse is in the NFC North. That's how it's rolling now. It's looking like.
How quickly things can change in a week. Where the Ravens are still locking it down, and all of a sudden now half the NFC North may be knocking on the door.
Because you sit there, the Ravens come back, and it's like, all right, Lamar comes, and it's like, oh, okay. But you know what? They were in there fine. But when you lose to Carolina. And like I said, I've given Carolina their flowers. They're like that team. They're a tough team. They're a good, tough team. But for all the hype that we've given the Packers, they screw the pooch unbelievably. Plus, you have a tie on your record. Like that, let alone. And then, Detroit, everyone's like, yep, here we go. They're the class. No one knows what's going on in Minnesota. Everything's still off. They've got to figure it out. JJ just comes in off his injury and just makes it look easy. So, no, there's issues there. The Ravens are still hanging around because if they don't win the division, at this point, I'm just going to rename it. I'm going to name it after the Ravens. I'll figure out a catchy name. But the Ravens, they're hanging around there too. Okay, I'm not giving them a full pass, but if they somehow pull their way out and somehow make it through and make it to the Super Bowl, I will never put them in there again. Just for this epic climb back to greatness. But no, like
there's a bit of poetry in this, considering how many years you were on the Ravens and you wouldn't let the Bills out, and all of a sudden now the Ravens are threatening to rename the penthouse.
It's like Detroit has the talent and everything, but it just seems like, I don't know, like I just don't know why. Like they should have won today. I don't get it. Like I said, they've got injuries, but the talent that is there, They should have been able to beat Minnesota. But I give Minnesota their flowers. They came and handled business. They won. They showed people today that, that they still, feel they've got a chance. So Detroit's going to have to look at this and say, what do we got to figure out and get it fixed quick?
Yeah, nobody would have thought when you say two teams are going to win in the NFC North and two teams are going to lose. We wouldn't have thought it would be Packers, Lions lose and Bears and Vikings win.
Seriously, like really, like Victory Monday in the NFC North. There you go. Chicago and Minnesota. Yeah, okay. Whatever, man. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Now this is an interesting one because I would have loved thanking Denver for keeping the Texans down. I would have loved to thank the Raiders for keeping the Jags down, and that did not happen. Geno Smith decided he wanted to play like a regular quarterback again. Brock Bowers returns from his nagging injuries with a massive authority. And we should give one big shout out to Cam Little, new NFL record, 68-yard field goal.
And telling you, man, 68 yards, that's no joke. That's some leg, man. At this point, in a couple of years, guys are going to be hitting from 70 like ease. That's unreal. 68. Like, I remember when, 55, 60 was like, wow. Like, we were like, that's it, man. It's not going to get any better than that. These dudes now are like, 68, here's, hold my beer. Let me show you something. So,
yeah.
And it just shows that they're a viable weapon. Like him and Aubrey from, Dallas. Like, you can't, these guys, 2-minute drive, if they're only down by 1 or 2, these guys only need 60 yards to beat you. So that puts so much more pressure on your defense. Kickers are a serious weapon. Now watch, they're gonna start getting quarterback money soon. Watch.
Yeah,
you'll be paid $40 million a year kicker.
You throw in Butker, you throw in Fairbairn, you throw in Boswell. Like there's just so many kickers nowadays that are turning into, I don't want to say a franchise cornerstone, but almost like the position. Like you need one of these to be extremely good in order to have a solid crew.
Yeah, you need a guy who's going to hit, from 58 to 62 consistently. You need one of those guys because just the way that the league is, it's insane. It's like, the league, moving away from the pocket quarterback. The pocket quarterback was life forever. Now it's, if your quarterback can't scramble a little bit, you're like, all right, well, I don't know how good he's going to be. As long as he can sit in the pocket and I have a great offensive line, he'll survive. So, but no, give the guy his flowers, 68 yards. Talent.
And I'm a little upset the fact that the Raiders' offense has been so putrid and not expecting Brock Bowers to do much. And the Jags are supposed to have a solid defense, so he's sitting on the bench in 2 fantasy leagues. But I guess I'll take solace in the fact that the Jags are a division rival and their defense got lit up by one player.
See, there's always a positive, but at the same time, like 3/4 of America, had Brock Bowers, and no one knows what's going on. So it's great to see him healthy. Unfortunately, he's just gonna toil in Vegas because Geno can't do anything right. Geno's a hot mess. Like that offense is just they need a quarterback. I think after this year, especially depending where they fall in the draft, they're gonna have to go quarterback. Geno is just having a really bad year, and all these weapons are wasting away. But it's great to see Brock back.
Yeah. Generational tight end. Hopefully he gets a quarterback sooner rather than later.
Probably when he leaves.
That's right.
He'll sign somewhere else. He'll go somewhere. Who knows?
That's right. Well, Bucks McGee, some things shaken up and some things brought a lot closer together in Week 9, and certainly a lot of fireworks, drama, and question marks, and as always, new residencies to the fraudulent penthouse. Sir, please take us off air with your final thoughts of Week 9.
Week 9, man, insanity, I must say. Indiana Jones brought to earth a little bit, but Colts fans, don't worry. I'm sure you guys will bounce back. Green Bay, welcome to the fraudulent penthouse. Your suite awaits. Towels and sheets are ready for you. Rams, I love you. Thank you, Matt Stafford. New Orleans, how's that taste?